Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm your host, Nick Marbena, and this is Careers Take Time. Today we have with us Christian Cloud. Christian, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Christian. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and what the first idea of a career looked like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, appreciate this opportunity, Nick. This is great. I feel like my career has taken a very interesting path. It wasn't very direct. Um, if you want to go back to when I was a kid, I think I probably didn't know what I wanted to do, but it was always something creative. Want to be a musician, want to be an actor, and at some point along the way, I settled on wanting to be a dentist. I'm not sure where that came from, but that was like once that hit, I was laser focused on wanting to be a dentist. Um, and um, Got into college soon after. Discovered that it's not that I didn't have the aptitude to be the dentist. So you have skill versus will. I guess I didn't have the will to stick that out, and switched into design. So went kind of more back, went back into that creative field that I was talking about, and took a graphic design path for many years. And during that time, uh, and let me preface this with saying I've always had a background in computers. Um, uh, Took a break looking for a new job, perhaps moving from the state that I was living in, and took a job, what I thought was going to be temporary, for an IT company, and the rest is history.
Interesting. So, musician, actor, dentist. Tell me a little bit about that. Did you ever go back and try to dabble in musician or actor or anything in that creative side?
Yeah, absolutely. So, personal interest, I'll always do something creative. So I enjoy drawing, enjoy painting. I'll do mock designs. It's just I like exercising that type of mindset, which I actually, the way that I think as being a designer, I should say, I can apply to my current job, my current role. Um, However, I'm pretty safe to say that being a dentist is chunk. That idea was thrown out of the water many moons ago. Um, Let that one go. But it's kind of funny, like that you asked that question, because I feel like there's a reason why people have an interest in something. It's dependent on, differs from person to person. You might have a bug for health or for automotive, and it's kind of funny because you'll see sometimes those threads. There's a common thread going, weaving itself in and out of your life. So to answer your question, at some capacity, yes to all the above. I'm interested in health and optimization, and just to be a better functioning human being, and just to and it's not that I intend to do anything, maybe a great feat to impress many people, but just the fact that I can function and be optimized allows me to consider health things. Uh, in terms of creativity, it's a way for me to uh, get some frustration out or express myself, right? And so, yeah, absolutely.
So, in terms of interests, what do you think happens to any of us to where we look back and we say, I know this is an interest, but there's potential here, and maybe I can make a career out of it? Where do you see that change occur?
So, are you asking like, uh, what makes you want to be interested, find interest in something and turn that into a career? Is it okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's an awesome question. So, if I think about it, I mean, you look at, I'm gonna answer your question roundabout way. If you look at entrepreneurs, right? Like, oftentimes they say an entrepreneur will figure out, they turn a career out of by wanting to solve a problem. So they see a problem in the world that they say that it's my mission to fix it, right? I think that's one aspect. I think, excuse me, I think for me, it was from a more immature mindset. It was things that I enjoyed doing that brought me joy and I thought were fun, that I wanted to make a career. I think it's not, and I think that that's a healthy mindset. But those don't always go hand in hand. You know, I think very few people are able to make a career out of take sports. How many of us? A lot of us may enjoy shooting basketball, but only very few of us get to be a pro basketball player, right? So
True.
it's I think it's first identifying that's something you enjoy doing. It's something you want to explore. Do you have the aptitude, the capabilities, and the desire to push through the trials to make that happen? And if so, then yeah, absolutely. Um, you should take that inspiration and move forward.
Do you think you chose the joy option or the solving a problem, to feel the desire to solve a problem?
That's a great question, Nick. You know, I feel like I chose. So I'm happy doing what I do, doing what I do now, being in IT. Um, but it was something I didn't know existed before. So I would have not known there was joy there unless I investigated and decided to walk down that road, if that makes sense. So I think sometimes it's just trying new things, and this is not the direct answer to your question, but trying new things, giving yourself an opportunity to explore something new. If I still look for what I found joy for me personally, with my experience, my lens as a 10-year-old, it'd be very limited. Um, Later in life for me, right? So as I mature and grow, those experiences are going to just be a little outdated for me. However, I don't think that's true for everybody. I feel like I have a younger nephew, and if he says I want to be fill in the blank, then absolutely encourage him to do that, right? But 20 years from now, may need to retool that. So to answer your question, I do believe that I found joy in something that I didn't know that I was going to find joy in. Um, so that's kind of a vague answer, but that's the answer. I'm
No,
sticking.
that's great. No, that's great. If you were able to, so to speak, hit the reset button, would you follow the same path?
Uh, Follow the same path in terms of where I've landed. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I wish that I had asked different questions along the way, but in terms of all the, we don't have so much time for this conversation, but there were tons of different pings and bumps and explorations along the way, and I wouldn't remove any of those. It's almost like a choose your adventure game, right? It's like you go through this door. Oh, I didn't know this exists. What happens next? And the really neat thing about that is that each door that I walk through, I took an experience or a skill set out of it that I can apply. So um, me as a graphic designer, uh, a skill set that I learned from school and even working as a designer for a living was how to ask questions, how to ask better questions. And I learned that at 19, 20 years old, which is something that I use now in my current job. So many years later, I'm able to tap into a skill set in two completely unrelated fields. So the answer is I wouldn't looking back, I would maybe make some minor adjustments, but I would not have taken a different path.
What are some of those questions that someone should be asking today in their search for the next chapter in their career?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a little bit what I said a little about. Do you have the aptitude? Um, Look, I'm not very tall, and just don't see much, and I don't have a great jump shot. So if I told you today, Nick, that I'm going to go try out for the Chicago Bulls, I think that you personally might say, knowing as long as I've had, would say, "Are you sure?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like obvious that that's not a skill set. So like what I would say is first you have the aptitude, right? You can admire and wish all you want. And this, some people may not actually agree with, appreciate what I'm saying because it doesn't sound as hopeful, but I think there is hope in what I just said. There's that honesty in that, and that honesty is looking yourself in the mirror and say, what am I good at? Because you may be telling yourself no to something, but yes to 30 other things. So, what's your aptitude? Um, do you have? Is this? I love cooking, and I worked in restaurants for years, like in college, after college. I mean, but I don't know if I want to work the long hours on the line, sweating. That just doesn't appeal to me. And I have a lot of respect for people that do it, but those people that do it love it, right? That's so. Do you have the desire to push through the adversity of that job? You know, aptitude, desire, um, and is there just a general interest? Right? Is it a passing interest, or is it something that actually uh, uh, gives you a little bit of fire, something that gives you a little bit of passion that causes you to want to deal with adversity or investigate further.
What type of adversity do you feel you face today?
Uh, as in what capacity?
In your current role or in your search for the right role for yourself?
Okay, so searching for a role is a great question. So searching for a role, I mean, it's going to be competition, right? So higher up you go, job. There's especially in IT space, going to be a competitive market. There's other markets. I had a conversation today during a training, and this person worked for a animation house, and it was so cool because it was a little bit tapped into what I wanted to do at earlier in my life, and um, and it's you know what, Nick, I apologize. I just caught myself going on on a tangent
No,
here.
you're not on a tangent. You're good.
Um, but um, you know, it's in terms of diversity, it's going to be, competition is going to be one. Um, the I would say just sometimes it's yourself. I'm my worst enemy, my biggest critic, as well as my biggest fan. And I would like to say that I'm Michael Jordan-ish in the way that I can inspire myself. But I always appreciate that about him, right? Like it's a like he sets a bar for himself that's higher than anything that someone else can set for him, right? So some of that adversity is not always outside of me; it's going to be also inside, in whatever mentally or the heart to continue, or am I good enough? The what do they call that? The imposter syndrome. I mean, these are all things that I think people struggle with, and I'm definitely am aware of all these and struggles personally, right? And it's just kind of also just knowing why am I here? What do I want to do? I mean, that's a form of adversity as well.
True. Absolutely. What motivates you, Christian?
I that's a good question. Um, a lot. One, I would say, uh, myself. I just to want to be the best version of myself, and that's not coming from a narcissistic point of view. I feel like if you're the best version of yourself, then you can be a service to others. So that's what drives me as well, is just being able to be a service to others. If it could be, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be a small gesture. It's just this conversation, as well as donating hundreds of thousands of dollars, can all help and affect people's lives, right? So it's that's going to be something that motivates me as well.
Interesting. If you're speaking to your family, what are some words of wisdom that they've provided you that's helped you along the way?
My family, uh, oh my goodness, um, a lot. I'm trying to think. My dad has always provided good advice and put me on the spot, so I'm not thinking of something. But like, I know that when we've had conversations in the past, I'm always probably throwing. Oh, my dad said at one point, but on topic, um, my dad. I'll give you two. Um, grew up in a little bit more rural slash suburban environment, but it always had been fascinated by more city life, more city urban lifestyle, and so I had the dreams of like living in New York, working as a designer, or you just these things that I thought like people in those type of careers do and how they live, and my dad said to me one day that I just don't understand like how you grew up, how that even appeals to you. And he says, there's more than one way to live your life. find the way that works best for you, um, and go for it. He says, but with the understanding that there are pros and cons to what you choose. So, for example, let's just take city versus a more rural, urban versus suburban lifestyle or rural lifestyle. Um, I living in an urban setting, I would have to perhaps deal with noise pollution, actual pollution. Like just maybe crime's more of a factor. But the trade-off is easier entertainment, better transportation, accessibility to events, like uh, and so there's trade-offs to everything. What works for you?
Have you found what works for you?
That's a little deep. Wow. I think I have, but I think that it's a moving target sometimes. So I don't know what that says about myself. But I think that moving target, I think all in all, I mean, as I'm happy with myself in terms of career goals and um, uh, where I'm headed, absolutely. Like I wouldn't change anything, but I'm probably considered people when people get to know me, really know me. I'm a little bit of a restless person, so it's like the what's next? How do I get there? And I might need to calm that down a little bit. But all in all, I feel like um, I know what the question was. What works for me? I would say yes, um, but it's sometimes a moving target.
Okay. How do you measure your own growth?
I don't know if I have a great answer for that. Shot some off the cuff answers, and I don't think I want to yes you on
That's
this one.
okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
it depends, Nick. I'm not going to ramble on about this one. I think it depends on what we're talking about. And we're talking about more professional growth. Well, then like things like KPIs. I mean, you have to set that for yourself or by the ones from the company, right? What's something actionable and measurable that I can accomplish? Fitness goals are going to be very similar, right? If I want to lose 10 pounds, um, the watching the scale drop or watching how much weight you can lift or how far you can run, those are all actionable things that you can measure yourself by. I think when you start talking about like the spiritual type growth, that's a little bit more abstract, and I wouldn't know how to answer that. It's something that I think I would feel, but I don't know if I know that could qualify
Okay. Pancakes, waffles, or French toast?
it. um, Depends on my mood. They're all good. So I would say a go-to would be I just love waffles, perhaps. I like the compartmental to be able to compartmentalize the syrups kind of cool.
Okay.
How
How
about
do you
yourself?
reward yourself?
How about you? Pancakes, waffles, French toast.
Chocolate chip pancakes all day long.
Ooh,
All day long. Chocolate chip pancakes. That's my
that's
favorite.
good. Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll do a chocolate chip waffle once in a while, but
Yeah,
something about how that pancake gets soggy. I love it.
yeah, absolutely. What was your question?
Yeah. How do you reward yourself?
Different ways. So, you'd ask the other question was how do I uh, not set goals, but how do I know
How do you
when I'm
measure your own growth?
goal?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the reward system is something I definitely do. So let's say from a working out perspective, look, I'm not a fitness professional, so people may disagree with this, but I'm not really big on, oh, I've reached this goal. Let me go ruin it by eating a whole bunch of like pancakes. You know what I mean? Like, just to me, it's like counterproductive, right? So, um, but what can I do that either gives myself a little bit of break, um, and or enhance what it is that I want to do. So, for example, let's use fitness because I think I think sports and fitness are just good examples, right? Let's say that I want to train for a triathlon and after or a long bike ride, and I reward myself with a new pair of sneakers or a new bike after I've accomplished this goal, so that I can perform better for the triathlon. I like to do things like that for myself, so that makes sense. So if I accomplish this goal, I'm gonna buy a nicer computer for my or a better computer for myself, so that I can do my job better. So that's kind of how I reward myself.
Okay. Was there a chapter in your career that you enjoyed the most?
I'll give you an answer that may sound a little phony, but it's true. All of it.
Okay.
Are there jobs, experiences, people um, that hold a special place? Um, Absolutely. But when even the negative times, I look back and I think to myself, "Oh wow, like that prepared me for this great thing on the other end." So really, all of
What's the toughest job you ever had?
it. The toughest one is always the new one.
Okay.
Oh, like you're the new kid on the block. Like I got to prove. So it doesn't matter if I'm waiting tables slash and or doing IT. Um, it's that proving yourself. That's always a challenge, except a willingly accepted challenge, or I wouldn't have taken it. Right. But I think that's always the hard part. It's just learning tools, processes, people, and culture. It's always a little bit more difficult.
What type of culture do you look for?
Collaborative. I've actually taken a personality test that um, it's kind of a funny thing bringing up my dad again. We took a test when I was in college, and we're just trying to be able to communicate with one another better, but with one another, well, excuse me, one another better, and this test has revealed a lot of our personality, right? And uh,
What did it reveal?
um, I was just kind of thinking back on that. Um, so for me, like I was saying, like collaboration is definitely something that teamwork um, doesn't really surprise me. I definitely am built and enjoy sharing the glory, sharing the workload. It's when you work at witness a well functioning team or working within one, the rewards are great. Like and it's a to me a thing of beauty. So definitely collaboration. But to answer your question a little bit, so it's just my communication style. And the collaboration things were two that stick out. And again, I took this test years ago, and they still uh, I still remember those.
Okay. If you're looking for the right culture code, or if you're building the right culture code yourself, what are some things that you would want to make sure are included there?
Yeah, I think if I, let me. There's a lot I want to say to that question, and I just want to get my thoughts straight. So a
Mhm.
couple of different things. One, leadership matters, and I really do feel how the culture of a place, organization, a team starts with the leader, right? And it's if there is a point of contention there, sometimes it rolls. Quite oftentimes, it can roll downhill. And So if you have a leader that's open, truly open door policy, hey, what do you see out there that we can do to make things better? Um, that I think a lot of people appreciate that, right? Um, it's, however, as I say that, I don't want to bash leaders at all. That's a hard job to be able to juggle personalities, um, responsibilities. Excuse me, they're in those places for a reason. And I do have a lot of respect for leadership, but and what they have to go through. But I do think, in my opinion, the ones that have been more effective have been the ones that enjoy or appreciate or attempt to implement feedback from their teams. So that's important to me. From a culture standpoint, openness amongst the team, right? Like, I don't think that someone should feel ashamed for not knowing something, because you can't fix the problem, you can't grow if everyone's being silent. So, if a football team has a weak link, hopefully the teammates or the coach, whatever, can identify that link, address it without shaming. It's like, hey, you didn't block that direction, or you didn't throw the ball to that receiver. Like, oh, okay, this is let's identify the problem. So those are going to be two big things with me, and then probably the word inclusiveness. I know it's a bit of a buzzword right now, but that's just a big part of it as well. Being inclusive, not having, look, it's human nature to have cliques and friendships, but what I mean by inclusivity is everyone's opinion matters.
Absolutely. No, agreed. Christian, in today's time, of course, a lot of folks are being furloughed and laid off and seeking their next opportunity. What advice would you give to those individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. Advice I would provide would be being patient with yourself. Um, Quite often, human nature, you want to gain back what you lost. And there's a sense of urgency that you probably place on yourself. Now, granted, finances, people have families to take care of. I understand that may sound like a luxury, but if there's a mental to be patient with yourself, because it's not going to happen overnight, right? And then the other advice I would give is to maintain some type of like a schedule. It's like, to wake up. I feel like when things shift or your life is disrupted, to maintain some type of normalcy is extremely important, right? So to still get up at 8:30, if that's what time you woke up, that seems like luxury to me, to wake up at 8:30. but but you know what I mean. So just to maintain those type of schedules, and and come up with a plan. That plan can vary depending on career, job, but whatever it is that you're doing, there has to be a plan. You just can't, hope. Hope is not a strategy. Never thought I'd repeat that.
Fair enough, Christian, and great advice. And thank you for taking time to speak with us. And thank you for those viewers for joining us for today. Remember, careers take time, so be patient.